सहना भवतु सहनो भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति. So welcome everyone to today's talk. So we are going to be studying this amazing text, Bhaja Govindam. So I'll leave this slide on for now, so we won't be, that's where it's going to stay for quite a while. So this amazing text called Bhaja Govindam, and so it is composed by Adi Shankaracharya ji. And so we're going to be studying that for a while now, and also with the blessings of all my teachers, we are going to be able to do this. So Adi Shankaracharya ji is an eminent and remarkable saint, and his exact date of birth is disputed. So modern historians state it was around 700 and something AD, but really we don't know, and actually for our purposes this is quite irrelevant, but I just thought I'll give you a little bit of a context. So his parents didn't have any children, and they were praying for a child, and finally before they actually got a child, they were asked whether they wanted an ordinary child who would have a long life, or they would have a genius who would have a very short life. So initially it was thought that his life was going to be about 16 years. And then eventually he got another 16 years and he lived up to the age of 32. So his parents chose to have this child who would come and help humanity in many ways. So his father died when he was very young, and it was very clear that, you know, from the very start that he was not ordinary, and he was a genius and not what you would expect of a normal child. So he started teaching at the traditional school where his father was teaching. So from a very young age, so he had already mastered everything. And at the age of 8, so he took renunciation, and he wanted to become a renunciate or a herm, or the word that I might be using is sannyasin. And so all it means is a renunciate, if you want to understand it like that. So he took sannyas, so which is this act of renunciation. So that's sannyas, and then to become a sannyasin, and that's the renunciate. So before he did that, his mother was obviously not thrilled at the idea of him becoming a renunciate, because that means that he would leave home and go and live somewhere else potentially, and she wasn't very happy at the idea at all. So and to convince her, and she was having none of it. So one day so she went to the river, to the nearby river, to wash clothes. And there is an interesting story about that river as well, where he changed the course of that river. People had to go very far to go to the river, so he actually did change the course of a river, so the river would run near the house of where people were living. And so the mother went to wash clothes at the river, and and then and he was kind of he went to have a swim in the river, and a crocodile got hold of his foot. So he thought at the time that maybe he was going to die, and that was the end of his life. So he started reciting mantras, and so did his mother. And so his mother kind of came to see what was going on. And then he said to his mother, well, you know, I want to get to take sannyas now, because I'm not going to live anyway. So at least if I've done this, this would be something that I wanted to do, and an achievement in what he wanted to do. So he said the various mantras, and he became a sannyasin just by doing this. And but then at the same time, the crocodile let go of his foot. So by that time, it was a little bit late. He's already become a sannyasin, and these are not things that are taken very lightly. So you just can't press the undo button and say, well, actually, that didn't happen. So now, you know, so, and as you would see in these times, people kind of kept their words, and, you know, these principles were really very dearly and faithfully guarded. So by that time, he had become a sannyasin. So there it was. And so he kind of left home, left his mother alone. And so he was also born at a time of turmoil, and there was a lot of confusion that was happening at the time when he was born, and confusion about various religions. There were religious fights. There were barbaric things that people were doing in the act of in the name of religion. And so therefore there was a lot of practices, of wrong practices that was happening, and he didn't really well, there was confusion. Basically, all people were kind of coming up with their own philosophies about things, and they were fighting, and really it was a very tumultuous time. So then what he did is, his mission was to kind of convey exactly what the scriptures say. So that was what he wanted to do, and what he needed to do. So he went and found his own teacher, and his teacher also said that that's going to be your mission, is to safeguard all these knowledge that have been passed down from time immemorial. So so he came, well, he started doing that. He started writing commentaries on the text. So, well, before we go on to this, so I just want to talk a little bit about what he wrote. So what he wrote was not his own interpretation. So there is no, he didn't have his own philosophy at all. So it was what was in the Veda was what he faithfully translated for us. By translated, I mean made accessible for us and for generations to come. So the Vedas are the main part of the literature. So we call it the Vedic literature, and that's where the word Vedic comes from. And for now, we'll just accept them as the various scriptures in the Indian philosophy. So, well, in the Vedas, it talks about, and the associated literature, actually, they talk about everything there is to know, everything about life, about various sciences, about astronomy, astrology, and all sorts of things, including, and also about self-knowledge. So the main topic matter of the Vedas is actually about self-knowledge. So what we mean by self-knowledge are these existential questions, as we call them. So we're talking about who am I, who is God, and also what is the purpose of life. So these are the existential questions that we're talking about. And the self-knowledge means knowledge of the self, knowledge of who we are. And the Vedas are said to be quite special, and they are not man-made. So we believe that they've been directly handed by Ishvara to us, and they're also eternal. So they always exist. And also they are beginningless. So sometimes people, historians, again, modern historians, so I've talked about how it's not relevant for us at the moment, for our purpose anyway. But also people try and put a date to when the Vedas came, into existence. But this probably just means records of when things started getting written or mention of them. But truly speaking, the Vedas are beginningless. Nobody knows when they came, but they're also internal. There wouldn't be a time when the Vedas will not be here. And so Adi Shankaracharya was an avatar of Lord Shiva. So he knew all the very vast Vedic literature, and it's really not humanly possible to know them in one lifetime. And also, and even more so, it is not possible to know them at such an early age that he did. So in the course of the various scriptures, there are instances when Ishvara takes birth and comes to earth. So by Ishvara, so you all know what Ishvara here is. So Ishvara is the creator for now. Okay, so that's the working definition that we're going to be going with. So in history, there are various instances where Ishvara takes a human birth to come and establish dharma. Dharma is to put the world to right in many ways. So there are a lot of nuanced meanings. So for now, we're just going to say to establish dharma. So I have used the term Ishvara, so I just want to talk a little bit about Ishvara first of all. So Ishvara is the creator, and it is not possible that the world happened without a creator. And so we need a creator, and we accept the existence of a creator. That creator is formless, and it's very subtle. It is beyond words, and it is beyond qualities. So it's not, it's very different to what we think. But for the purpose of communication, we will be using the term Ishvara. So when we're talking about the formless creator, we would be using the word Brahman. But when we use the word, when we're going to be using the term Ishvara, so because then we kind of understand, just so that we can talk about Ishvara. And we would not be using the term God. And only because God is got very many meanings, and the meanings are kind of very loaded and very, so therefore we will be kind of just be using the term Ishvara. So just to sort of see what we've done so far, so we're just setting the scene for our text. So we've learned the term Vedas, the other scriptures, and the associated literature. There's also we've also said about the Vedas being not man-made, sorry, and eternal and beginningless. And also we've introduced the term Brahman, which is this formless and very subtle creator beyond words and qualities. And then we've also talked about Ishvara, and that's the term that we would be referring to the creator as. So Adi Shankaracharya, so he wrote these texts that are very vital to understand the Vedas. So the subject matter of the Vedas is very simple once we understand it, but it's also very cryptic. So there is nothing that, you know, that's difficult to understand in the Vedas, but it's also very cryptic, and the way it is written. So very often there'll be a sentence and we can't really understand that sentence. We haven't got the knowledge to understand that sentence. And this is why this is the contribution of Adi Shankaracharya. So what he did is he wrote commentaries to help us understand the Vedas. So so all teachers use his commentary, and without his commentary we cannot understand any of the Vedas nowadays. And so to understand the Vedas we need a teacher. And again, and the teacher would have learned through Shankaracharya's commentaries. So they are called Bhashya. So Shankaracharya's Bhashya, the various Bhashya for various texts. So don't worry about retaining these terms, but for those who know, then that's something that you can probably relate to. So we need a teacher, and it's not, and the self-knowledge from the Vedas is not something that we can pick up by ourselves. So it's not, there are no dummy guides that we can read and then pretend to know that, oh yes, I've read all the Vedas, and therefore, you know, so most people who kind of say, oh yeah, I've read all the Vedas and I know it all, and that just means that, you know, it's not possible to understand the Vedas without the teacher, without the blessings of the lineage that has come from you know, from God, from Ishvara. So here we've got this this picture here. So everything came from Shiva. And then in between there was there's also Dakshinamurti, and then there is this is Adi Shankaracharya here, and then various lines of teachers. And you would see here we started the class today by acknowledging. So we said we salute the lineage that starts with Lord Shiva, and then with Adi Shankaracharya in the middle, and then continuing to our own teachers. So my own teacher here is Swami Nikhilananda Saraswati, and his teachers were Swami Paramananda Bharati and Swami Chinmayanandaji. So this is this, I have learned Bhaja Govindam from him, and that's what we're going to be teaching. So and exploring together. So so that is a little bit of the context of about Adi Shankaracharya. So now I want to talk a little bit about the context of the text itself. So Bhaja Govindam is absolutely beautiful, and I want to talk about how it was composed. So Adi Shankaracharya, so he traveled around the country. So other than writing these commentaries, he also went and did, he traveled the whole of India and more than once, and to kind of address people's doubts and debate philosophies. So there were just so many philosophies that existed at the time, and he kind of wanted to debate it all to kind of say, actually, there is one way, one truth. So nowadays, you know, people to be politically correct and say, oh yeah, everyone is correct, everyone has a point of view, which is fair enough at a functional level. But then we also need to understand that there is also just one truth, and then one way of things will be there. You know, we have to understand things correctly. So, you know, now to sort of not offend people, we kind of say, oh yeah, what you're saying is correct, or yeah, that is correct as well, or that is not correct. But so his idea was to actually have something that will go uncontested eventually. But to do that, he had to go through a very, very thorough process of doing this, to to actually refute every point, to actually illustrate every point. And he didn't, so he did it very, very systematically, going round and all about the debate. So we can talk about this more eventually, and it's really, really fascinating. And there is a book also that I would recommend at the end that you can read if you want to learn a little bit more about Adi Shankaracharya ji. So he was in Banaras at the time. So Banaras nowadays is known as Varanasi. And so this is in Uttar Pradesh in India, and it's also known as it was also known as Kashi in the and these are the names for the place. So he was there walking with his disciples. So he had a lot of disciples, and then they met an old man who was learning Sanskrit grammar. And so this person was really elderly, and he was sat somewhere and learning grammar. So Sanskrit grammar is pretty special. To learn Sanskrit and its grammar properly, it takes about 10 years. So you can get an understanding of Sanskrit, quicker than that. But, normally if you want to know everything and if you're doing it properly, then this is what people say it takes as long as that. And so then Adi Shankaracharya ji was thinking, well, what is this person doing? Is this the right time to be learning grammar? Should he be doing something else? So he then thought, well, actually, there's not much time left for this person. So time spent learning grammar is probably not the most rewarding or what this person should be doing. He wasn't saying, oh, don't engage with grammar at all, but alongside grammar to do other things as well, which will connect him to the divine and makes, and make better use of the time that he had left. So obviously he was of a certain age, so which also meant that he didn't have too long to live. So the main message, therefore, is there isn't too much time to live. So therefore, we need to use the time that we have that's best spent connecting with Ishvara. So this is the only thing that is going to last. This is the only thing that's going to make a difference. So we're going to learn about all of this in detail. So the point is we're all very much geared to the outside world. So the outside world takes up a lot of our energy and our priorities. So we've got loads of things to do all the time. And we do not have the time or the energy when it comes to it to connect with Ishvara. So the text, Bhaja Govindam, is a text of instruction for everyone, for all walks of life. So it's not just for people of a particular culture, following a particular religion or nothing like that. It is meant for every single person. So as long as we are in the human body, then it is for us. And it is also, even though it was composed in the context of an old person, of an elderly gentleman, but Bhaja Govindam is very valid for all ages, absolutely all ages. So I just want to talk a little bit about the main stages of life. In the Vedic scriptures, there are four main stages of life that everyone goes through, in general. So the first is let's say 20, 25 years of life is where we are students, where we're learning about various subjects, various disciplines, but also about dharma, about how to live a life of righteousness and how to live really. So this is what we're doing during that time. So brahmachari, or a life of a student. Then after that comes the next stage where people get married, and have a family, and so become a householder. So this is the grihastha stage of life. And then, so people during that time, they bring up children, or if not, if they didn't have children, they will still go to work, they will still amass wealth. So this is the time where people kind of build up a bit of security for them to live modestly. And then the third stage of life is where people get retired. So it's called that's where people kind of take a little bit of a step back from engaging into worldly life so much, and then they kind of start. And here, I mean, traditionally people go to the forest, so we're not. It doesn't need to be like that, but it is where people kind of take a little bit of a step back from the worldly life and devote a bit more time to the pursuit of connecting with Ishvara. So, and then finally, the fourth stage is one where one takes sannyas. So which is to become a renunciate, so where actually leave everything behind, all properties and everything else, and then concentrate full time to knowing Ishvara, to discovering Ishvara, and to serve Ishvara. So this is what these are the four stages. So there is the first one, a student, the second one is householder, the third one is let's say retired, or and then the fourth one is to sannyas. So given the context of this text, it is important to mention about the tone and the language of what we're going to be studying. So the verses that we are going to be looking at are in a language that's very whiplash. So it doesn't have all this very, there's no room for politeness or a lot of formality in what Adi Shankaracharya has to say. So this has to be understood in context, especially in the context that we all live now. So it can come across as a bit rude, but that's not what it was meant to be. That's not what it really is. So I'll just give you an example, right? So essentially, if somebody comes to your house, or somebody comes in, or they need to come into your house, they'll come, they'll knock, they'll introduce themselves, they'll say, I'm really sorry to disturb you, and they'll talk about the weather, they'll talk about something, and then they'll get down to business and explain what they're doing. However, if there is a fire in somebody's house, and then the fireman comes in, the fireman is not going to spend time knocking on the door saying, may I come in, sir? And I am really, really sorry to disturb you. I didn't mean to. And, or would you mind coming out? There is a fire, and the fire is this. And, so this is not how we deal with an emergency. Emergency is fire, get out. Right. So this is how we deal with an emergency. There is no room to kind of, no room to say everything else. So the fireman would say, oh, come out. And if the person resists, then the fireman will say, well, you will die if you do not comply. So the fireman is not going to say, it's not going to spend time explaining why and what will happen and the dangers the fire presents. So similarly, there is a difference when we're kind of having a normal situation and when we are having a situation of an emergency or an urgency. So here, the way the text is, there is some sense of urgency in the matter, and it's very, very compelling, and it also tells things as they are. So, there's a lot of words, and there are loads of descriptions that are brutally true. So none of these are made up, but they are absolutely true, but they are just things that maybe we don't talk about, we fear to talk about. And, you know, the word death is used, and we sort of, you know, and also about what happens, and, you know, all these kind of things are talked about very honestly and very openly, and in a very raw sort of way. And so we have to understand that this was not composed out of disgust or out of arrogance or anything like that, but Adi Shankaracharya ji wrote this out of deep compassion and concern. So this is the context to understand this language that we're going to be looking at. Okay, so now I just wanted to move on to talk a little bit about, well, okay, this text was composed for this person, and why is it relevant to us? So we've all got our lives, and, you know, but why do we need to know about this text? Why are we here talking about it? So this text really, in a very very succinct sort of way, summarizes the essence of the Vedas. So one part of the Vedas. So for now, I'll just use the word Vedas, and it's going to talk to us about life, about our life. So this text is about us. Self-knowledge is about us. You know, when we're reading a novel, it's about somebody else. When you're reading about, you know, most of the things that we read about, it's not about us. But all this is about us. It's about our lives, and it's about you know, about our existence. So therefore, everything which is to do with self-knowledge and what the Veda has to say, it is for every one of us. And well, the schools and education system serve a purpose of making us learn transactional language, learn things that help us to go in the world, to understand the world, to function to a certain extent in the world. But what the schools don't do is they don't talk about life in a way that helps us to live fulfilling lives. So it's not about what we need to do. It doesn't help us about to understand the nature of life in many ways. You know, through literature, sometimes we might get to understand a little bit about life, but really about how we should be living our life, and how to understand our life, and how to put our life in context, and to understand what is our goal, and all that sort of thing. This we don't get from the schools, and these is only given to us by self-knowledge. And other you know, you can get some instructions, if you like, from other places, but the way self-knowledge is exposed in the Veda is quite unique. It is very, very detailed, very systematic, and without a contradiction at all. So that is why we kind of need to know about this, and why it is important for us. So self-knowledge and knowledge about lives that we're going to be learning from here in Bhaja Govindam will help guide our lives. So let's say if we want to move from point A, well, we want to travel from point A to B, and we first of all need to know where we are, in where point A is. And then we need to have decided that we want to go to place B, let's say to the seaside. And then what we'll do is we put that in our sat nav, and then our car will take us, the sat nav will take us there. But really what Vedic knowledge is, it is more than a sat nav. It also helps us to decide, it also tells us where point A is. It also tells us about our destination. It tells us why we're here, what is our purpose in life, and what and also it takes us there really systematically, step by step. So we get an understanding of life that nowhere else is given. So it doesn't mean that we will never be sad again once we understand this or whatnot, but what it means is that we're equipped, we understand things for what they are. Even if we get sad, we understand why we're sad, we understand we understand the nature of life a little bit better. So this is why self-knowledge is for all of us. And truly speaking, all of us are in this point of self-knowledge, trying to discover ourselves, but except that some of us know it and some of us don't know it. Some people pursue that path consciously, but all of us are on that path, whether we know it or not. So now moving on to the structure of the text. So the text has 31 verses, and they are very short verses, and the first verse is repeated after each verse. So we will be chanting it in here and in the class, and it's very melodious. It's really, really nice. There are different tunes to it, so you can explore on your own as well. And so what we will be doing is we'll be looking at each and every verse and explain everything as we go on. So we'll be having about 2 to 3 classes a month. And they will be recorded. The discussion bit will not be recorded. So after each class, there would be a little bit of a discussion just for people to ask questions. And but we can see how, as we go on, how we want to do these sessions and what is best to help our learning. So this time we're going to go a bit more traditional, so which means that I will not be having slides, which I used to in the happiness talks. So I will be what I will do is I will be sending you a little document that you can have yourself, that you can keep, and that will have all the verses in there. And I might just put the verses on as I'm reading them. So you will have the verses that you can refer to in your own time. So one thing I would say, don't get scared with the Sanskrit. I mean, we're not here to learn Sanskrit or, that sort of thing. I might mention a few words, but I would also explain to you what it is. And so knowing Sanskrit is not essential. And, so don't worry if these are not clear. You can just ask. And when it's something that you need to know, I will emphasize it. So sometimes in passing, I might just say, I might just bring in something for those who know, or those who already are familiar with this, but it's not very essential to know everything. So you can, so don't be put off by the Sanskrit, essentially. So so in terms of books, I will put them in the chat. So there is the book that I would be using a little bit sometimes is this one is I don't know if you can see it. It's not focusing very well. I think it's just the light. So it's called Bhaja Govindam, and it's by Swami Chinmayananda. So this is the book that I would be using. So I will send you all this, so don't worry about noting it down now. And then also I will also send you the name of the book, where there's where we talk about Adi Shankaracharya ji, so that this is Mahaparivrajaka. So and if anyone wants to borrow it as well, I've got a copy. So this is also very nice. So I'll write it all down for you. And then I'll also mainly be teaching from my own teachers' classes, so Swami Nikhilananda Saraswati. And if you want to listen to him directly as well, all his talks are on YouTube, that you can go on to listen when you're ready. So so what we'll do today is we will just look at the first verse a little bit, so we won't have time to go through the through the whole explanation. So I'm going to take my time with this. So it's going to take us quite a while to do this, and then we will sort of do a few questions. So the English translation seems a little bit weird, and it sometimes doesn't make too much sense. Okay, so so that's just the nature of it. But the original version is quite poetic, and it's really magical, and it's really lovely, and it rhymes, and it's just really, really well composed. And so we're going to just chant it now, and I'm going to start a little bit of an explanation of this. So, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate, Samprapte Sannihite Kale, Nahi nahi rakshati dukran karane, nahi nahi rakshati dukran karane. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate, Samprapte Sannihite Kale, Nahi nahi rakshati dukran karane, nahi nahi rakshati dukran karane. So, so this verse is repeated after each one, as I mentioned. And what it means is, well, just the translation, it means seek Govinda, seek Govinda, seek Govinda. So that's the, and then it says, "O fool." So I did warn you about the language. So when the appointed time, so that's death, comes, grammar rules will surely not save you. So we're going to go into a lot of detail about this, but I just wanted to talk about maybe one or two words today. And the first word is bhaja. So bhaja is got quite a few meanings here. It says serve, it means serve, it means seek, so go and find, serve, love, and also worship. So essentially what it's all trying to say is develop a rapport with Ishvara. So develop a rapport, so that's bhaja. And then Govinda is Ishvara, so is one of the names of Ishvara. Okay, so so Ishvara is present in the form of a world. Everything in the world is Ishvara. And here we're talking about Govinda as Ishvara, and also, well, Brahman is known by many names, and so we only have one or two names. So some of us have got a middle name, and some of us have got a few middle names or a long surname or whatever, you know. So that, but Ishvara has got infinite names. So there are loads of names. So there are stotras, or that in the that we recite, that have got 1,000 names of all the deities of Shiva, 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu, and all this. So essentially there are many names, but there is but we need to understand all of them as Brahman. So similarly, if we think of a white light that's going through a prism, there is one white light, okay, that's going through the prism. And then at the other end of the prism, when you're looking through, what you see is different colors, right? So it is this one light, but then seen as different colors. So these colors are not different from the white light, but it's just seen as different. So similarly, there is Brahman, but seen as many, and the whole, and Ishvara is present in the form of a world. everything around is Ishvara, and there is nothing other than Ishvara in the world. So we'll discuss this as we go on. So there are many meanings of Govinda, what Govinda means. So Govinda is Ishvara. Govinda means one who rescued earth. And it also means one who protects the earth. It also means one who knows the Vedas. And it's also one who has given us language. So, and by language, here language comes from Shiva and his little drum, and by making a little bit of a noise with a drum, this is where the sounds, the original sounds came from. So even though there are different languages now, English being one of them, and all the other languages that we know, but the very notion of language came from Ishvara, and language goes far beyond, and everything has their own language. Dolphins, honeybees have got their own language. Everything has got their own language, whether we know it or not. So essentially, so for those who know about Vishnu Sahasranam, there are two places where the word Govinda is, where the term Govinda is mentioned. So for those of you who know, I'll just mention. So this is verse 20 and verse 58, and these are the two verses. And so don't worry if you don't know what I'm talking about. I can explain later, but it doesn't take anything from the understanding for now. So basically, Bhaja Govinda means serve, love, and worship, and developed a rapport with Ishvara. And Ishvara is the creator. Ishvara is the one who rescued earth, is the one who protects earth, and the masters of our senses, the one who knows the Vedas, and the one who's given us language and everything else, essentially. So so I'm going to stop here for today, and then we're going to look at a bit of question, and then we're going to start. We're going to carry on with the first verse next time. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.